If somebody drops the steak prices, then the businesses have to. That's the key to it. Alan Fuller, Dallas, Texas. On last night's No Spin News, you discussed with Tim Graham how the FCC has no authority over cable news. My question is there a government agency that does? No. That's why you can use four-letter words. You can say the most outrageous, defamatory things in the world, but you can sue them. Cable. And obviously, there have been a lot of lawsuits. That is the only restraint. Carlon Cathay, Fort Bragg, California, up on the Mendocino coast. I definitely have a question that I feel only you can answer, Bill. What kind of dynamic would be if Mandani wins the mayoral race in New York City and Elise Stefanik becomes governor of the state? Can Stefanik stop Mandani? Yes, on a lot of things. Now, she can issue executive orders. That's the easiest way. So Mandani goes some crazy, says, I'm going to take everybody's furniture in New York City. That's what communists do. Governor Stefanik, right in order to go, no, you can't. In a moment, something you might not know. Ready for flu season or not? Too many families wait until they're sick and then rush to urgent care. Don't make that mistake. Be proactive and start preparing now. Go to All Family Pharmacy. They are different from the big chains. They don't push flu shots as the only answer. Instead, they believe in medical freedom, giving you access to options. More than 200 medications available, from daily prescriptions to advanced biohacking products. And every order includes a doctor's prescription, no insurance required. So stock up today on Tamiflu, antibiotics, antivirals, ivermectin, even flu kits and vitamins for immune support. Orders ship fast, overnight shipping available if you need it right away. Please visit All Family Pharmacy, one word, allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill. Use code BILL10 to save 10%. Don't wait. Get ahead of the flu season.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stegall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
Now the O'Reilly Update brings you something you might not know. On this day in 54 AD, Roman Emperor Claudius was poisoned by his own wife. The murder gave total control of Rome to a teenage boy. His disastrous reign would solidify the downfall of the entire Roman Empire. Here is the story of Nero. After the assassination of Caligula, his sister, Agrippina, married the new emperor, her own uncle. Her son Nero was named heir to the throne a short time later. Agrippina had no intention of waiting for Claudius's natural death. On October 13th, she fed her husband his favorite meal, mushrooms sauteed in butter. The dish was laced with poison. Claudius died instantly. 16-year-old Nero was then crowned emperor. The teenager immediately began a psychotic reign of terror. He had his mother, Agrippina, executed. She deserved it. He then ordered the murder of his sister. She suffocated in a steam bath Nero beat his pregnant wife to death. Soon after, under threat of execution, his favorite male servant was castrated, then forced to marry Nero as a woman. The dictator spent a fortune building an ornate palace, only to have it burned down along with the rest of Rome. After years of erratic behavior and general craziness, Roman politicians sought to remove Nero. He then fled the capital in fear. As his enemies approached, the dictator instructed his personal secretary to stab him in the heart. Nero, dead at the age of 30. And here's something else you might not know. The expression Nero fiddled while Rome burned is not accurate. The fiddle would not be invented for another 800 years. Eyewitnesses claim the sadistic Nero was drinking wine and singing as Rome was engulfed by flames. Back in a moment. If you own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles and have an auto warranty about to expire or have no warranty, listen up. Car Shield, as a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan, is now available to the public. You can save out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Please call Car Shield now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. 800-881-0365 for a free quote. This protection plan is at an all-time low price. Drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. So please call for your free quote. 800-881-0365. 800-881-0365. Hey, what do you have to lose? 800-881-0365. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. All 20 remaining hostages captured by Hamas have been freed and returned to Israel as part of a ceasefire deal that has paused a 2-year war. Gili Roman, the brother of released hostage Yarden Roman Gat, says it's a great day.
You can see it around the whole square. Like, the Israeli people are relieved and happy. I know. So it's a very unique morning, and maybe a morning that will change much of how we got used to live here in this country. We will get our sanity back.
President Trump says this is historic.
It's peace in the Middle East, and everybody said it's not possible to do, and it's going to happen, and it is happening. It's before your very eyes.
A meeting of world leaders in Egypt sought to set in motion the next phases of the agreement. 2 weeks into the government shutdown, there are no signs of ending the stalemate anytime soon. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
House Speaker Mike Johnson warns that this shutdown could last a while longer.
We're barreling toward one of the longest shutdowns in American history unless Democrats drop their partisan demands and pass a clean, no-strings-attached budget to reopen the government.
The Pentagon will pay military personnel this week, but many other federal workers are not getting their paychecks. And the White House is carrying out mass firings, with Vice President Vance warning of painful cuts ahead. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Authorities say more than 30 people were rescued and 3 people remain unaccounted for in western Alaska after the remnants of Typhoon Halong brought hurricane-force winds and flooding strong enough to sweep away entire homes in coastal communities. Good day on Wall Street with the Dow up by 588 points. More at townhall.com.
This is Dennis Prager for AmFed Coin and Bullion. There's something about the feel of a gold coin in your hand and the way the light reflects off its intricate details that has always captivated me. Nick Grovich, AmFed's owner, turned that same passion into his livelihood. Nick began collecting coins as a teen, and that interest grew into a nationally respected business offering only the finest quality coins at the most competitive prices. But the truth is that although Nick is a rare coin dealer, he doesn't believe in rare coins. Rare coins do not make sound investments, but they do make dealers a lot of money. See, that's part of what I respect about him. AmFed specializes in buying non-performing numismatic coins and turning them into gold or silver investments that provide liquidity and perform competitively against the market. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. American Federal.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A warm pattern the next couple of days. Low of 60 degrees and a high of 82 in the afternoon. Normal will be closer to 70, but we're going to be up into the low 80s. Partly cloudy skies, a warm day, and that warmth continues for Wednesday. Partly cloudy and a high of 81. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Hey, folks, it's Jamie Allman here for the Wallner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway. I love this team so much, and Rodney and Jen love the team so much, I became a member. So now I'm an agent with the Wallner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway, and I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that we're going to get you into a home really super easily and with the lowest cost you're ever going to find, and make sure we find you that dream home. We're also going to list your home and get the top dollar for your home. I'm telling you, Rodney and Jen love this business. You can tell it is infectious, and I'm so happy to be a real estate agent there with them. 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD. Whether you are buying your home or selling your home, I'm telling you what, the costs are going to be absolutely totally minimal, but the professionalism and getting the job done for you is going to be 100%. The Wallner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway, 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD.
Number one for live and local
Conservative talk.
Every day, something new.
news, analysis, opinion.
So here we are.
This administration has spared no effort, none, to incite fear.
There aren't enough air traffic controllers.
Close everything in the towers.
Paychecks start being affected.
For the most part, we're going to take care of our people.
How am I going to pay my mortgage? How do I make my car payment?
So here we are.
1019 and 94.1.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but you're... Now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
This is not only the end of a war. This is the end of an age of terror and death, and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East.
President Trump speaking before the Israeli Knesset, a place that Chris and I were honored to visit when we were on our mission trip to Israel with Newsmax, and celebrating along with most of the world the freeing of the 20 remaining hostages who happen to be alive. All 20 of them returned to Israeli hands. Chris, this is a momentous day, even if MSNBC doesn't think so.
Yeah, this is a huge achievement for the president, for the administration. And as I said Saturday on Newsmax, it astounds me that the Democrats can't give the president any credit, because First of all, this is also a victory for the United States. It asserts our moral leadership. It shows that we are leaders of the world and we can broker a deal to try to bring peace. But the Democrats in their Trump deranged syndrome could not pull themselves to do that. I tell you, Tim, something that was really infuriating me over the weekend when I was watching the Sunday shows and they had Democrats talking about this deal. They were all reading from the same hymnal saying, well, you know, this deal was on the table back in March a year ago, and Bibi Netanyahu wouldn't accept the deal. He was being all recalcitrant. And I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, would Hamas have accepted this deal a year ago? They didn't mention anything about that. And the reason why we have a deal is because the president and his bold leadership attacked Iran and destroyed destroyed their nuclear facilities, and they destroyed Hamas and basically made them nil. And the final keg in Hamas's coffin was when Israel went into Gaza and said, we're going to clear out the remnants of Gaza and take them all out. So Democrats, Monday morning quarterbacking, 2020 hindsight, all of that. But I was just amazed.
The revisionist history on this is absolutely ridiculous, to your point. The only reason we're at this point right now, let's say it very simply and clearly, is because of Donald Trump and his administration. Trump 1.0 set up the Abraham Accords on which this framework was based. Joe Biden didn't bring us further along, Chris. He almost screwed the entire thing up, just like he screwed up tell me one foreign policy triumph of Joe Biden's administration. You can't, because there weren't any. And another point you made, Chris, so true. It's almost as if the Democrats are ignoring that Donald Trump is president right now, along with every time else there's some happy news, or they're trying to pay him backhanded compliments, or they're doing it late in the game. Chuck Schumer, finally, talk about Monday morning quarterback. Monday's almost over. 1 hour ago, Chuck Schumer finally came out with a statement. He did mention Donald Trump. I'm kind of surprised he did. One of the poll quotes is, I commend the enormous advocacy of the tireless hostage families, President Trump, his administration, and all who helped make this moment happen. I'm surprised Chuck Schumer gave any credence to Donald Trump, given that AOC is probably biting over at his ankles on stage left. But it's just, they can't give credit where it's due.
And it's so obvious that the president deserves a lot of credit for this, and also deserving credit. And a lot of the Republican conservative political analysts over the weekend also noted the fact that he was using untraditional people to help broker this deal. The Steve Witkoff, who is not a diplomat, is a business person, but of course he knows how to negotiate like the president does. And his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who has a lot of business deals and ties to the region with the Arab governments. I think the unconventional people that he had fostering this diplomacy is what got this deal done, and that's another reason why they can't stand this deal, because it wasn't done through the normal diplomatic protocols.
Mm-hmm. Donald Trump always willing to break the mold, especially when it means getting something good done for the globe, almost as if we planned it. We'll have Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator, now chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council, join us at 4:25 to let us know how historic is this development in the Middle East, and most importantly, what is next for the region. As Donald Trump has said, are we on the precipice of the dawn of a new age for the Middle East? Jim Talent, one of the best guys we could ask about that, with given everything that's transpired over the last week.
Yeah, and I think we are on the verge of a new dawn in the Middle East. I don't think we'll ever have truly peace in the Middle East, because from my Christian standpoint, the Bible says there won't be peace until the end. But I think we can have a stall in war between the factions. Donald Trump, you have to give huge credit for that.
Mm-hmm. As long as Iran, the world's largest state sponsor of terror, remains in the current situation that it is going to look for another front group to maybe cause trouble in the region. So we'll ask Jim Talent about where Iran fits in with all this as well. Very complicated area. Senator Talent will be able to explain and analyze all that for us.
Tim, one thing that was very interesting too, if you listen to the president's remarks today, is he kind of threw a olive branch a little bit to Iran, saying that we'd love to have a peace deal with you as well. He praised the Iranian people, said they're smart, they're diplomats, they're intelligent people. It's their government that is the issue with them. So, it looks like the president is trying to foster a deal with Iran, which I think the world would love to see.
Indeed, there are some of the greatest Americans we have are Iranian Americans who escaped from that totalitarian regime and are over here working as awesome American citizens. I know several Iranian Americans personally. They're awesome people, and they have unfortunately simply been lorded over for 5, 6, 7 decades by these theocratic tyrants.
And you remember during the Barack Obama administration, when Iranian students and Iranian people started standing up to their government and were protesting in the street, and a lot of people were hoping that Barack Obama would, help these folks out, give them some arms or give them some moral encouragement to try to overthrow the government. And we did absolutely nothing. So there is the Iranian population is very young. I think the majority of the population is under 25. They don't like the oppressive regime that's been in place since 1979. And they'd like to see freedoms that they're not Arabs, but other countries in the Middle East don't have democracy, but they have a lot more freedom than the people do in Iran.
We'll also ask Senator Talent at 425 about the ongoing Schumer shutdown. Seems like things have gotten kind of quiet in Washington, D.C. as people are now thinking about it. It's almost like the shutdown is becoming a way of life now as we've entered day 12, and the world has not ended.
Yeah, and Schumer completely put his foot in his mouth over the weekend when it was revealed that he said that he thinks that they are winning this government shutdown. Not the thing you want to hear if you're a government employee who's about to lose their job or have lost their job. It sounds like it is very, very political, what they're doing, which is what it is. And Hakeem Jeffries and other Democrats on the Sunday shows were questioned about that. Of course, they danced all around it. But, hey, this is what Chuck Schumer said, and it's his words, and they're on tape. So if they believe that this shutdown is working for them politically.
I have never seen the liberal media, the corporate media, be more inquisitive of Democrats than I have during the last few days of the shutdown. They're actually asking them pretty tough questions because it's a pretty simple situation. And the Democrats forever were always on the other side. The Democrats for years have advocated for clean continuing resolutions. Now they're not. And so even Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation yesterday was quizzing Hakeem Jeffries and others and saying, what is it about this continuing resolution that you find so objectionable based on everything you said in the previous 13?
Yeah, and they don't really have any credible answers. They go back to, well, we wanted to bring back $1.5 trillion worth of spending. They say that this is not a truly clean CR and all of that, which is complete BS.
Indeed. Chris's Corner will follow Jim Talent at 4:45 today.
Yeah, a few top Senate Democrats are now in love with TikTok. We'll tell you who they are. And last Friday, the first episode of C-SPAN Ceasefire debuted and had Rahm Emanuel and former Vice President Pence on it. You remember the show, the old CNN show Crossfire, which was very, very popular on CNN in the 90s, really where I cut my teeth on politics watching that show. C-SPAN is trying to resurrect it with a show called Ceasefire. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Speaker Stump Speech at 5:07 will be titled Give the Donald His Due. I will extrapolate a little bit more on this historic day in the Middle East and how we would not have gotten here but for Donald Trump and his administration. At 5:25, we'll speak with Susie Moore. She's deputy manager editor at Red State, redstate.com. Susie, of course, covering everything in the Middle East. Hamas releasing remaining living hostages as critical part of peace plan comes to fruition, something that Susie Moore has written about. And the ongoing update, the ongoing consternation between J.B. Pritzker and Donald Trump. What is the latest, maybe not so greatest, in Chicago as Donald Trump attempts to deploy the National Guard there?
Yeah. And, going back to the hostages being released today, most of the dead were given back to Israel, given back to their families. There are some of the bodies that Hamas is saying that they don't know where these bodies are. They're making the excuses that they were in some of these tunnels, and when Israel bombed these tunnels, they collapsed. So the bodies may be under rubble. Unfortunately, we're hearing that some of these bodies may not ever be completely recovered, and that's a sad situation for those families.
The horrible toils of war, indeed. At 5:45, we will wrap things up, prepare you for Larry Connors USA. Chris, what do you have on the docket for that segment?
Very, very strange story involving 2 Trump appointees at a Ritz-Carlton.
That's a great G. I'm writing that down. At the Ritz-Carlton.
It's a strange story.
Strange story at 5:45 regarding 2 Trump appointees at a Ritz-Carlton. And we have producer Joey V with us here as well.
Happy Indigenous Peoples Day, Joey.
Yeah, thank you. I'm wearing my favorite Indigenous people on my shirt. It's the Mario Brothers clan, a beautiful Italian family.
Right? Yeah.
They're the most Italian.
Yeah, they are. Mostly Italian, yeah. Like me, I'm kind of half Italian. Joey, are you watching a movie this week that you will review for us on Friday or not?
I'm going to see tomorrow this movie called Good Fortune. And it is a bit of a body swap movie. A rich guy changes places with a poor guy, but it's got Keanu Reeves in it.
Oh.
So that's what makes it really interesting. He's an angel that comes down and makes Aziz Ansari and Seth Rogen swap bodies for some strange reason. I got to get to the bottom of this case.
You know, one thing that's since you've been doing these movie reviews every Friday, Joey, I never really realized that this many movies are coming out every week.
Why do they keep making new ones? The old ones are so good, Chris.
I don't know. I mean, am I paying attention because you are doing the reviews every Friday? It just doesn't seem like new movies came out every week like this.
I think if they're not advertising to you specifically when you're watching Newsmax during the show, you're not going to know about it.
All right. So that's not unusual for movies to come out every week here.
No, and there's always people who are gunning to have a weekend all by themselves. So somebody will shift when they see, oh, Tron is coming out. We're kind of an action movie too. Let's see if we can get in earlier before Tron. Yeah, there's always going to be something every weekend.
Are you going to see Tron, Aries?
No, I've never even seen the first two. I'm sure it's bizarre, but fun and nostalgic for people. I don't think I can understand the plot. I'm an idiot.
I thought the second one was great. It had Jeff Bridges in it, and I hear he's in this third one. I like the Tron saga. It reminds me of my childhood because of the game.
The video game, yeah.
And I remember the original movie, but I thought the sequel was good, and I hear this one's pretty decent as well. I had one more movie question for you. Did we talk about this many, many, many months ago? Did you see Alien Romulus?
I did,
or
yeah.
not? Okay. That started, I was looking for something and I was watching an ad and then it started and it looked cool, but I was like, I gotta stop because I don't have 2 hours right now. But did you like Alien Romulus?
I did like it, and especially because it's set between 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
It's got all that same retro futuristic tech that I love. You know, people in those jumpsuits wearing their Converse tennis shoes. I like that feel, and they made it perfect.
Chris, you saw the first Alien movie, but did you see any of the ones after that?
I think I did, maybe on cable, but didn't go to the movies. Joey, I got to ask you, she's a little past your time or before your time, but Diane Keaton passed over the weekend, 79 years old. She will always be Kate, the husband of Don Vito, Michael Corleone. You have any thoughts on the great Diane Keaton?
No, she was doing a bunch of those old lady rom-coms when I was coming of age.
What is a rom-com?
Romantic comedy.
Oh, romantic comedy. Okay.
We've had this lesson before. You know, the First Wives Club and Something's Gotta Give, all of those adult rom-coms.
Notting Hill.
Yeah, I wasn't really into those as much, but I know I like Annie Hall a little bit, but I don't have very many memories about it. I think there's a line from it I say to my Grammy sometimes, like, I love you. I love you. Yeah. Like he can't find the words to say how much he loves this lady. So he comes up with new ones. I say, I love you to my Grammy sometimes.
And we do want to wish everyone a very happy Columbus Day, which is what today originally was for many, many, many decades. And then, of course, we had this Indigenous Peoples thing because the left thinks we're just a bunch of colonizers and oppressors. But as usual, they don't know their history because, Chris, when the Indigenous Peoples were here in North America before the horrid white man came over from Europe, the Indigenous Peoples used to war with each other all the time. There were the warring Native American tribes, and then there were the more peaceful ones. But as usual, the left doesn't know their history, and so they just think Christopher Columbus is a horrible human being, and so therefore they try to hate on all of us Italians.
That's the play.
But I know a lot of my Italian family and friends will be celebrating this. The holiday, of course, commemorating the day when Columbus, quote, discovered the Americas. And so there you have it. So a lot of festivals and things like that. And it's become more of an Italian Heritage Day than really a celebration of Christopher Columbus.
I'm sure the Hill in St. Louis will be having a raucous time this evening.
Rocking and rolling indeed. There you go. Chris and I and Joey have a jam-packed radio show. We're going to speak to Jim Talent next. Chris's Corner at 4:45, Speaker Stump Speech 5:07. Susie Moore, 5:25. And then we're wrapping things up at 5:45 with a story about 2 Trump appointees at a Ritz-Carlton. Sounds like the beginning line of a joke.
Yeah.
All of that and more when we come back with the great Senator Jim Talent on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 1019, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A warm pattern the next couple of days. Low of 60 degrees and a high of 82 in the afternoon. Normal will be closer to 70, but we're going to be up into the low 80s. Partly cloudy skies, a warm day, and that warmth continues for Wednesday. Partly cloudy and a high of 81. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
It is awesome. And listen anytime.
Love the News Talk STL app.
Anywhere.
I try to keep all of my business relationships as local as possible. You know, I don't like dealing with big out-of-state conglomerates where you're just an account number. That's why I bank at Royal Banks of Missouri. They're folks who actually know my name. They understand my community, and they're invested right here at home. That's why I've been with them with over 20 years. They've been around in St. Louis for 60 plus years, helping families and businesses right here in the area. And they've just opened a brand new headquarters in University City, right around the corner from my house. They're at Olive and McKnight. They're bringing their home base back to where it all started, right there in University City. And here's some big news. On September 17th, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates for the first time this year. That could be a great chance to look at refinancing or other options. And Royal Banks can walk you through what makes the most sense for you. And speaking of good news, in September, Royal Banks was recognized as the 23rd fastest growing private company in St. Louis. Yahoo! And the fastest growing bank in the region at the 2025 St. Louis Business Journal Fast 50 Awards. They've got 16 locations across St. Louis to serve you in St. Charles, Illinois, and even in Northeast Missouri. Still locally owned, still independent, and they're here to stay. So check them out today at royalbanksofmo.com, royalbanksofmo.com. Royal Banks of Missouri, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
When it comes to spending your tax dollars and teaching your kids, governments and school districts should be an open book. But in Missouri, that's not always the case. Recently, the Show Me Institute sent out a sunshine law request to school districts across the state, asking for information on whether certain topics are being taught. Specifically, a controversial one called critical race theory was included in the list. Many districts didn't respond. Some wanted to charge large fees to process the documents. Lee's Summit outside Kansas City wanted over $35,000. A rural district, Morgan County, wanted $15,000. The Sunshine Law does allow charging a reasonable fee for sending out information, but there's nothing reasonable about $35,000 or $15,000. These districts should want to be transparent about their curriculums. Taxpayers deserve to know what their kids are being taught. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Number one for live and local
Conservative talk.
You can take these facts. I know for a fact. It's just about time. It's not now. When? Oh, there's just so much to say and not enough time to say it or do it. I'm sorry. This is our country. This is the country that you and I love.
I'm kind of not surprised.
Man, that's what they need.
Very upset.
A lot of fear.
I agree with that, and well, who couldn't agree with it? It's a fact.
1019 and 94.1.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
We'll prevail.
News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
Mr. President, thank you for all you have done for us. I have submitted your nomination to be the first non-Israeli recipient of the Israel Prize, Israel's highest award. As to that other prize, just a question of time, you'll get it. But I want you to get the Israel Prize, our highest award, to our greatest friend.
427 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. And there you hear the prime minister nominating President Trump to receive the Israel Prize. Well-deserved, as well as the Nobel Peace Prize. Hopefully he will receive that next year. We have on the line our usual Monday guest to talk about that and much more. Former U.S. Senator Jim Talent and chairman of the Reagan Institute.
I'm watching this and just wondering, who's running the show.
This Jim Talent segment is brought to you by Royal Banks of Missouri.
Senator, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing fine, guys. I'm really enthusiastic about what's happening in the Middle East. Not that I think it solves all the problems, but it's a landmark change, and it gives us a real chance for peace. And I'm glad to see the Israeli position vindicated. So we can talk about the merits of it if you want, but who couldn't, by the way, smile at how Trump has proven all of his detractors wrong. I mean, he's the best foreign policy president since Reagan. Remember how they said, our alliances are going to suffer. They hate him abroad. And he brought together basically the whole world. Qatar, Turkey, the Europeans, as well, of course, as Israel. And he's gotten this landmark deal. So I'm glad to see him vindicated on a personal level. And one other thing, I honestly don't think Donald Trump gives a tinker's damn about the Nobel Peace Prize. And why should he? Would you guys want to get a prize from that group of people? I don't think he cares. I honestly don't.
I don't think he cares, but I think he wants to one up Barack Obama. I think that would be one reason he would want to get it.
Chris, if he does want it, the reason is because he gets to go and give a speech, and I'm going to tune into that speech and hear what he says in that speech.
That would be even better than him scolding the UN as he does every year, Senator. Yeah, indeed. Senator, you were asking about people not smiling. Well, no one over at MSNBC is smiling this afternoon, Senator, and I watched a little bit of their coverage. I mean, Senator Talent, this is historic, right? I heard some commentators comparing this to the end of World War II, and in a way, the comparison is apt, right? Maybe even more so. This is a region that has been at war with each other for 3,000 years. And like you said, we shouldn't be Pollyannish about this, but we should also celebrate the fact that this is something different than what we've seen for the past many decades, isn't it?
Yeah, because this war, and basically it's a triumph of Israeli arms and American diplomacy, plus the targeted and extremely effective use of American arms. So they broke Iranian power. We won't go through the details, but they did. Not only the nuclear program, but also the network of proxies. That was essential. They were successful the president's been successful dating back to his first term in drawing the conservative Sunni states into the idea that we can have prosperity in the region and security in the region, and that their goals therefore can be accomplished. And I'll note, not only in these negotiations, but remember when he went to Saudi Arabia and he did all those deals and he gave the speech. He said, "Look, we don't want to interfere with you domestically. We want what you want, which is a prosperous region." What he did with Qatar recently is extremely significant. I mean, after the Israelis attacked, Qatar realized, we're not immune either. And Trump made the Israelis apologize and gave Qatar a guarantee. And then Qatar turns around and pressures Hamas, which was extremely significant. Even the Turks are involved in this. So this man knows how to conduct diplomacy. He has strategic purpose. He understands that our normal partners are the ones who have the same interests we do, and he drew them all together quite effectively. And sure, they don't understand MSNBC because they have this fixed idea in their head that Donald Trump is a boob and a fascist, and it's the furthest thing from the truth. And they keep getting showed up. They keep bumping into reality all the time.
Speaking with Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator and chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Senator, can you address the Democrats' main talking point over the weekend that this was a deal that was on the table in March, but Benjamin Netanyahu wouldn't accept the deal? Can you please address that?
It was never this deal was never on the table. I mean, in March. No, it was not this deal that was on the table. It was a deal that was worse for Hamas, better for Hamas and worse for Israel. That was the Witkoff deal, and Hamas rejected it. And Hamas has rejected all these. They've been maximalist in their demands that they get a total withdrawal in return for a partial return, basically in return for a partial return of the hostages. And Israel did not accept that. But I mean, the Witkoff deal was a temporary ceasefire in return for a partial return of the hostages. Netanyahu agreed to that. Hamas rejected it because Hamas has been operating on the assumption that international opinion will get them what they wanted. And there's so many things we could say about the strategic intelligence of Trump's policy. One of the things Trump understood is that if you want the Israelis to take any risk, and there's some small risk involved in this, you have to convince them that they can protect their own security. Trust is so important. So the more you pressure them, and they're the hegemon of the region, the most powerful country, they don't have to go along. Okay, the more you pressure them the way Biden did, the less likely they are to take any risk whatsoever because their national existence is at stake. So Trump made himself a friend of Israel, which was good for the United States. He recruited other partners in the region, and then at the proper moment, he changed the terms of engagement by saying, "Well, why don't we just get all the hostages back?" And we have, although I knew the butchers would renege on something, and evidently they're not turning over all the bodies, which is terrible. But we'll see what Trump and the Israelis have to say about that going forward too.
Mm-hmm. Speaking with Senator Jim Talent. Senator, we have entered the 12th day. We're approaching the 13th day of the government shutdown. We'll begin setting records soon as the days tick by. And the Democrats seem to be floundering a bit on their messaging on this. And I think the proof of that was the Sunday talk shows, whereby Democrats were actually getting pressured by many of the commentators, the well-known commentators, who run the liberal corporate media networks. They were cross-examining plenty of Democrats over the weekend about what's their purpose in this. Why won't they pass a continuing resolution? Why is this time different than the previous 13? Senator, where do you see things where we are currently now, and how do you see this possibly resolving itself?
Yeah, I think we got a little objective journalism out of CBS. Maybe those personalities are thinking, that we want to show the new boss that we can actually be journalists. Barry Weiss is running that show now. Mm-hmm. I think it was Margaret Brennan, or I don't know. I mean, I get them confused.
No, you're right. You're right.
Look, this kind of a shutdown operation, and I went through it 30 years ago, and when we engineered it, they're very difficult to make work. I mean, there's a high likelihood of mission failure. Let's put it that way. And that's where the Democrats are at. And one of the problems with it is once you start it, when you don't get what you want, how do you get out of it? Because if you back down, you started it to show your base that you would fight. But then if you back down after 2 days or 10 days or whatever, your base is angrier than ever, right? Now you got nobody. And they're in. I thought the Republicans did a smart thing by taking like 8 or 9 days, just driving the basic message that this is a Schumer shutdown done for political reasons. A CR is a clean CR. They voted for it 13 times in the past or something. So they drove that message for a week. If they had jumped in with the riffs at that point, then that might have shifted the discussion away from it, but they drove the message for a week, and now Vote is doing, and this is responsible. I mean, if there is no money, you're going to have to start laying people off, right? I mean, especially since they want to shift some money to be able to pay the military, and God bless them for that. I mean, you know, you got some guy just right out of basic training on his first tour of duty, some guy or gal, you know, they get paid about $2,500 a month. They don't have huge savings, so if they don't get paid 2 or 3 times, they can keep paying their bills. It's terrible, really. I mean, we need to pay the guys and gals in uniform. And it's not like they can say, well, you know, to heck with this, I'm just going to quit and get a different job. Well, no, you can't.
That's true.
Right? So,
yeah.
So I don't, Tim, somebody just called me earlier this afternoon and said, how they get out from under this? How the Democrats going to do it? And I said, I really don't know. I guess maybe at some point 4 or 5 more of them will peel off and take the heat and, you know, vote for the CR. That's, if I had to guess, I figure eventually that'll happen.
Senator, another Iran-backed proxy is, of course, the Houthis, and they control large parts of Yemen. Last week, the Yemeni president, Rashad al-Alim, he called for, quote, an international coalition that will liberate Yemen from terrorism and rebuild its national state. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he's striking while the iron is hot, because, you know, the broader implications of this Gaza deal are that the Abraham Accords are now going to proceed, or something like it, where you see a partnership with Israel and then the conservative Sunni states and then the United States on general security issues, of which the Houthis are certainly one, because they're right on the border of the Gulf of Aden. So he's trying to get everybody's attention. And the key thing to understand is he's speaking for the Saudis here. So there's a good chance this is the Saudis saying to the president, we want some help with the Houthis. And so we'll see how the Trump administration responds. They, of course, want to pull the Saudis into this partnership. So, and look, there's certainly precedent for it. There were a lot of pirates in the Horn of Africa, if you'll recall, and there was an international naval force assembled to stop them. So we'll see what the administration does with that.
Senator, I took note of something today that I will bet you'll be able to definitely comment upon, and that's the fact that today marks the 100th anniversary of Margaret Thatcher's birth. She would have been 100 years old if she were still alive today. She did live to the ripe old age, I think, of like 87 or 88 years old. Senator, for our audience that is not as familiar with Margaret Thatcher, you know, as those of us who came of age in the 80s and saw her right alongside President Ronald Reagan in our country, she was really a remarkable revolutionary for the conservative movement in the UK, wasn't she?
Yeah, she really was. And it began with a belief that Britain was, if no longer a great and international power, that it could nevertheless be a major power that could still offer, you know, prosperity to its people, a good, secure life, and a real contribution on the international stage. She had a great deal of confidence in her country, just like President Trump does. She had a very definite set of principles and ideas about how to accomplish what she wanted. She was tough and she was extremely competent. And so she remained prime minister for, what was it, 12 years, I believe. I mean, it's not too much to say she was probably the second greatest British statesman of the 20th century, and she played a key role in partnering with President Reagan, holding Europe. For example, when over the whole, you know, nuclear disarmament movement that the left was launching at that point, you know, a worthy Britain, let's say that. And eventually, of course, you know, Tim, when you're around a long time, and this is one of Netanyahu's problem, when you're a strong leader around for a long time, you make a lot of enemies, including in your own coalition. And that's why they got rid of her. She was just there a long time. It's hard to stay on forever. That's an advantage Trump has, because his 2 terms are separated by 4 years out of office. He doesn't face that same issue.
Mm-hmm.
Our presidents tend to face that as they get into the last couple of years in office. Even people who like them and wanted to see them there, are kind of wishing that they'd go.
Mm-hmm.
And then after they go, their reputations, reinvigorate.
Mm-hmm.
Senator, we've talked to you about this many, many times, how the U.S. is lacking ships, lacking missile capacity. President Trump and Finnish President Alexander Stubb are due to ink a deal where our Coast Guard purchases several new ships from Finland. Your thoughts on that?
I saw that and I thought, I wonder how our shipbuilders feel about that. But I think it's 11 that the administration, we certainly need the icebreakers. Let's just say that because there's a huge, the Arctic is full of minerals that we need, and not to mention oil. Okay. And you need icebreakers to be able to go after it. And that's, I think, one of the reasons President Trump is focused on this so much. But the idea here I looked it up, is to build 7 of them in the United States, in Texas and Louisiana. I think it's Bollinger shipyards, and then buy 4 from the Finns. So as long as there's plenty of business for our shipbuilders, then I'm fine with buying abroad. We got to get ships. And the truth is, I think you're going to see the administration relying more and more on foreign shipbuilders and foreign, because the Pentagon has been so slow and inept at building up our own industrial base, and we've got to have these systems. So they're going to work with the Ukrainians on drones. They work with the Israelis all the time on new technology. And, I'm okay with that. We can incorporate it and use it then in rebuilding our own resources. And we're not going to lose any jobs over this. Let's put it that way.
I should remember this, but I forgot. You were the chairman of a subcommittee when you were in the Senate that dealt with naval ships. And a lot of people are like, I was a senator in the middle of the country. Why is he?
You're right, exactly.
What chair?
It was the best one I could get with my seniority. That's why I took it. And I made a lot of jokes about it because here I am, a senator from Missouri. Although, if they rebuild the shipyard industrial base, and that's what they're trying to do, they're going to take advantage of smaller facilities, and we have them because we have, 2 of the 3 biggest rivers in the world. So we do know water. We may not know the high seas here in Missouri, but we know water. And I tell you what the administration wants to do with the maritime industrial base is breathtaking. The issue is, getting the Pentagon to produce, and this is a challenge that Exit has. And I talked to him a little before he was confirmed, and I really try to focus him on that because I'm glad he's doing these big picture personnel issues like his speech the other day. But I knew he could do that. I said, you're going to be able to do that. The issue is, can you get the Pentagon to play the role it needs to play in producing the ships and planes and drones and technology that we need?
What was the name of that subcommittee that you chaired?
The Naval Subcommittee.
Okay.
Subcommittee in the Navy, yeah.
Got it. All right. That's Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator and chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. You can reach him on X at Jim Talent. Thank you, Senator, and we'll speak with you next Monday.
Thank you.
All right. Chris's Corner coming up. It is 4:45. We're going to talk about a few top Democrats. Now they love TikTok. And the first episode of C-SPAN Ceasefire debuted last week. Tell you who the guests were. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A warm pattern the next couple of days. Low of 60 degrees and a high of 82 in the afternoon. Normal will be closer to 70, but we're going to be up into the low 80s. Partly cloudy skies, a warm day, and that warmth continues for Wednesday. Partly cloudy and a high of 81. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
Monday starts a new week, but some of the same old. Leftists still attacking ICE agents.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
The glow of gold. Couldn't think of a better thing to get for the loved ones in your life and for some wonderful items made out of gold, platinum, diamonds, whatever you may think in your wildest imagination. You should head over to Newstetter's Fine Jewelers. Newstetter's Fine Jewelers. Richard Newstetter and the gang, they're such wonderful people. Diana, Anna there at the front desk when you walk in. Such a warm and inviting store located at 2961 Daughtery Ferry Road, right there at the intersection. You know where it is, right at the intersection of like Daughtery Ferry and Big Bend, right there in that kind of cross section between Valley Park and Fenton on the south and kind of at the crossroads, right? Kirkwood to the north. Right there in the little valley right there. Newstetter's Fine Jewelers. It has been a St. Louis jewelry tradition since, get this, 1961 and going strong. How do they meet and beat the big, giant, sterile, big box stores every single day? Well, it's actually pretty easy. If you talk to Richard, it's all about putting the customer first, building a relationship, and delivering wonderful, beautiful products at excellent prices. That's Newstetter's Fine Jewelers. WowDiamonds.com is where you can find them online. Two things I want to tell you about real quickly as we head into holiday season. If you're really worried, if shopping for jewelry for your loved ones makes you completely nervous and you break out in hives, don't worry about that because we're going to solve that problem. Take your loved ones with you, whether it's your wife, your spouse, whoever it might be. Go into Newstetter's, fill out a wish list together. Look at everything Newstetter's has in the store. Their diamonds, their rings, their watches, their pendants, their bracelets, their gemstones, and their pearls, and put those things on a list for not just for right now, but into the future. And then you just go back to Newstetter's all by your lonesome. You pick out the next thing on the list, and you look like a hero at home, indeed. Newstetter's Fine Jewelers, from the beautiful glow of gold to the wonderful sparkle of their lab-grown diamonds to their excellent customer service, which you will want to hand down through the generations of your family. It is the one-stop shop for all that and more. Newstetter's Fine Jewelers at WowDiamonds.com. Newstetter's Fine Jewelers at WowDiamonds.com.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STL Windows and Doors. Their Provia windows combine old world craftsmanship the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or stlwindowsanddoors.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Sailing takes me away to where I've always.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
You had talked a couple weeks ago, you were doing an interview, and you talked about how you hope to end the war in Ukraine because it might help you get into heaven. How does this help? Does this help?
I mean, I'm being a little cute. I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven, okay? I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. I may be in heaven right now as we fly an Air Force One. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven, but I've made life a lot better for a lot of people.
450 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and the president, of course, being cute there, because those of us who are Christians know that if he renounces his sins and believes that Jesus Christ died for his sins, he can go to heaven like the rest of us, if that's your Christian belief. Mm-hmm. All right, Joy, let's do a little Carner.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
Tim, I don't know if you knew this or not, but on October 18th, this coming Saturday, there is another a No King rally scheduled around the country.
Is that because the first one was so successful?
I guess so. Home of the Brave is the organization. They're launching a $1 million ad campaign to promote that No Kings rally. We're going to play that ad at the end of the show so you can hear it. It's Kellyanne Conway. It's her ex-husband now. They're divorced, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
George
Conway. Yeah. He does an ad for that. So we'll play that at the end of the show. All right. The Senate Democrats were adamantly against TikTok at one time, but now they have changed their mind. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, future Whip Brian Schatz from Hawaii, and Appropriations Committee Ranking Member Patty Murray have all joined the Chinese-owned app since the summer. Murray and Democratic Senators Adam Schiff, I almost went there, and John Hickenlooper, they got accounts as well. Senator Patty Murray said, quote, "My concerns about TikTok haven't disappeared, but I'm not going to sit back and pass up the opportunity to get our message out to millions of Americans, especially as more and more people get their news from social media." John Hickenlooper said once TikTok gets sorted out, and by that I mean we have American control of the TikTok that operates in our country, then that ban will go away. Even Senator Cory Booker, Spartacus, has joined TikTok. He said, quote, "I'm seeing Democrats understand the power of that platform." And Senator Dan Goldman from New York, representative, he said he blamed, quote, "the extreme right for a fire at the South Carolina judge's house." Authorities later said there was no evidence the blaze was set intentionally. That didn't have anything to do with TikTok. That was another part of the story. But there was a judge's home that was set on fire last week. They suspected as arson. This judge was ruled against the Trump administration in a few cases. And so her home was set on fire. And of course, the Democrats are trying to say that it happened because some right-wing person set her home on fire. All right, we all remember Crossfire from CNN, especially if you are a political junkie. The new show called Ceasefire is hosted by Political's Dasha Burns. If you listen to the podcast there, you know her name. What it does, it features two duos from each side of the political divide. The debut episode had Mike Pence and Rahm Emanuel, and Sean Spicer and Faiz Shakir. I have no idea who he is. Pence, he praised Emanuel's capacity for reasoned political debate, saying, "At the end of the day, we're all Americans and we really have large challenges facing the country." And then Emanuel, he returned the praise and said, "What the Republican Party is missing is more Mike Pence. What scares me about the future is division in America and the fact that we see each other as enemies and not as Americans." I can agree with that sentiment, but I would say that if you look at the polls where Democrats say that it is now okay to commit political violence to achieve your goals, I think that the Democrats seem to be the ones that are fostering this divide more than anything. Also, in a new private polling memo by Democrat-aligned Global Strategy Group, its Battleground District survey found 89% of the 1,200 likely Democratic voters surveyed want their Congress member to take steps to keep them safe. But here's the kicker. Only 38% trust Democrats over Republicans with that. And a latest, talking about polling, the latest PBS News NPR Marist poll out last week said nearly a third of Americans now believe political violence may be necessary to get the country back on track. That's very sad. That's up from 19% just a year ago, and it was 19% back in April of 2024. What's driving that here? Take a guess. Mostly Democrats. Only 12% of Democrats back in April of 2024 said that. It's now up to 28%. It is almost doubled. So the Democrats, they try to say the right wing is the one that's causing all the issues and the violent ones. But as I said in the Chris's Corner a couple of weeks ago, that right-wing, quote-unquote, violence has dropped dramatically, where the increase has been from the left. And that is Chris's Corner. Tim, a couple of big Missouri stories that we didn't get to last week. They were at the end of the week. Friend of ours, I'm sure you know who he is, Scotty Leindecker. He was formerly the Republican director of elections in the city of St. Louis. He later left that company and founded a poll book company. When you go to the polls and you sign your name on that book, that's his company. His company recently bought Dominion Voting Systems. And all of the lawsuits that were against the media, including Newsmax, paid out a settlement. Fox paid out a settlement. Those lawsuits have now been dropped.
I know Scotty Leindecker well. He's a brilliant young man. He is another fantastic entrepreneur coming out of the Show Me State. He invented that software program, Chris, that now pretty much everybody uses, and especially in our region. And I'm very happy to see that he bought his company, which is called Liberty Vote, I believe,
Yes,
is able to maybe make Dominion great again, so to speak. So that was a big story indeed.
And I want to get your thoughts on this Bayer whatever the hell it is.
Glyphosate.
The Missouri Supreme Court declined to reconsider a $611 million roundup against the company. Bayer has said that they may discontinue Roundup. Your thoughts on that as an attorney?
Well, that would be wonderful, because then we wouldn't have to sit around and argue anymore about whether or not this does cause cancer. How about with our American ingenuity? And Bayer is a German company that bought Monsanto, the American company. How about with our wonderful Western ingenuity? We come up with a product that does what the farmers need, that doesn't potentially cause cancer.
I can agree with that. Everyone should be able to agree with that. All right, at 5:07, Speaker Stump Speech.
Yep, give the Donald his due.
And at 5:24, we'll have our weekly visit with Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor at redstate.com. Listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home, because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Hey folks, the Clayton Sleep Institute and my friend Dr. Ojal back supporting free common sense conservative radio. ClaytonSleep.com, treating the full range of adult and pediatric sleep disorders from sleep apnea to insomnia, restless leg syndrome, periodic limb movement, and narcolepsy. What an awesome place. New comfy setting for the sleep lab. ClaytonSleep.com, 314-645-5855. Better sleep, better life.
News, analysis, and opinion.
One of the great days ever in civilization. Abraham Accords. I like to say it that way.
Abraham is fine. Abraham, however you want to call it.
If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail. And I'm really good at predicting things. I've been right about everything.
If you want a Democrat that's going to call people Nazis or fascists, well, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm just going to be an independent voice.
101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis's #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at News Talk STL.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. President Trump has declared the historic dawn of a new Middle East. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
Addressing Israel's parliament in Jerusalem, the president celebrated the return of the living hostages as part of the Gaza ceasefire plan.
Today, the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace.
Earlier, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu told lawmakers,
Donald Trump is the greatest friend that the state of Israel has ever had in the White House.
The president said now is the time for Israel to translate its battlefield victories into peace. Greg Clugston, Washington.
All 20 living Israeli hostages have been released. Former hostage Aviva Siegels, who was released prior to today, says it's amazing that all the hostages are free.
I'm exploding with joy. I feel like the happiest person in the world. It's just amazing that the day came and it's now and it's happening. I have 20 hostages that are alive in Israel.
No end to the federal government shutdown in sight At a news conference, House Speaker Mike Johnson says he will not negotiate with Democrats.
You've heard Chuck Schumer say breathlessly, I just want the four leaders to get in a back room and make a deal. We're not doing that. We're not doing that anymore. We're getting back to regular order, and it's infuriating that that's what he continues to demand.
Texas camp owners are asking the state health agency to give them more time and flexibility to comply with costly new safety requirements implemented after a July flood killed 27 campers and counselors at Camp Mystic. On Wall Street, the Dow by 588 points. More at townhall.com.
Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. I've always been a strong believer in precious metals investment, and I've always been fascinated with rare coin collecting. But owning the wrong coins that only make dealers a lot of money can be catastrophic for your investment portfolio. AmFed Coin and Bullion specializes in taking people out of non-performing coin portfolios and turning them into gold, silver, or platinum bullion. They tailor a portfolio based on your goals and not what they want to sell you. You'll never experience scare tactics, misleading hype, or high-pressure sales from owner Nick Grovich and his very knowledgeable staff. They will evaluate your portfolio, show you how your coins have performed, and take the time to educate you on the ugly industry practices so that you can make an informed decision. Smart people can make very bad investments when they're under pressure and lack the facts. Call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. AmericanFederal.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A warm pattern the next couple of days. Low of 60 degrees and a high of 82 in the afternoon. Normal will be closer to 70, but we're going to be up into the low 80s. Partly cloudy skies, a warm day, and that warmth continues for Wednesday. Partly cloudy and a high of 81. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Attention off-road enthusiasts. Iron Bear Customs has the strongest bumpers on the planet, plus brush guards, lift kits, and custom cages for all vehicles. Visit ironbearcustoms.com and mention News Talk STL for 10% off. Iron Bear Customs, built tough for the toughest terrain.
Discover Patriot Powder Coating, your family-owned specialist in Pacific. From small jobs to big projects, we got you covered. Visit our showroom or call 636-551-0377. Mention News Talk STL for 10% off.
For 20 years, Harpo's Chesterfield has been the heart of West County's fun. With our award-winning patio, voted best in West County, and excellent sports bar atmosphere, our mouth-watering menu has made us famous throughout St. Louis. Plus, we've got great drink specials and the friendliest, most energetic staff around. Whether you're dining in or carrying out, Harpo's delivers fun, food, and drinks like no one else. Harpo's Chesterfield. Call 636-537-1970 or visit harposstl.com.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL. Enable our Alexa skill.
Hello.
Hey, Alexa.
Yes, I'm listening.
Play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
I've certainly heard from a lot of hostage families who give President Trump credit for this moment happening. Do you give him credit for this?
Oh, certainly. I mean, this is an incredible accomplishment, an incredible moment. I mean, hostages returned. You saw the pictures. I mean, the relief of the families is amazing. But second, the final end of the war in Gaza. The suffering in Gaza has been enormous over the course of 2 years. Now, there are miles to go on a whole host of different issues that we're going to need to work on that you've been covering this morning. But you have to look at the moment and say just ending the war and getting the hostages home is an incredible accomplishment. It was a long time coming, to be sure, but certainly the president dove in and was engaged on this issue in a way that right now truly did make a difference.
Random Democratic Congressman so-and-so and Caitlin Collins there at CNN begrudgingly trying to give President Trump the credit he is due.
Was that a Democrat in the back? Because if you listen very closely, somebody was weeping in the background.
You think that was the liberal tears, Chris?
Guess so.
Yeah,
It's like, who is that in the background crying?
I think they were playing. That's a great point. That's very funny. Saturday Night Live skit. That would be hilarious if there was like Nancy Pelosi and AOC like wailing in the background. That is funny.
That's
that
what
would
it
be,
sounded like.
That
man.
would be classic. It would be like a great Saturday Night Live skit. What that was, Chris, I think they were showing in the background one of the videos of the hostages being reunited with their families. But it could be Democrats.
Yeah,
crying
I thought it was
as
Democrat
well.
back there crying. Couldn't tell it.
It might have been Cory Bush and Jasmine Crockett in the background.
Yeah,
wailing that there may be. Here's the problem, Chris. What are they going to do on all these Ivy League campuses now that there is, at least for the moment, some peace in the Middle East? We could say this. The hostilities have ended for now. There is no ongoing war. So if you're screaming from the river to the sea, now you're really going to sound like a lunatic.
I think what the next phase of these campus revolts and demonstrations will be that the Palestinians deserve a state and they are subjects of the Israelis, and 67,000 of them were killed by Netanyahu, the barbarian. It continues.
Of course. Hey, speaking of liberalism being a mental disorder, as we often say here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 1019, 94.1 News Talk STL. Chris, we forgot to do the weekly murder report from Chicago.
There you go. Let's hear it.
Yeah, well, it's not as bad as in weeks past, but you know, Chris, Democrats are often fond of saying every life matters, I guess, except when it comes to Chicago. According to Chicago police, 2 people were killed and 11 others were wounded in shootings over the weekend of October 10th through the 12th. Get this, Chris. The victims ranged in age from 13 to 35.
I wonder if Operation Midway, which is going on right now in Chicago with the ICE officers, I wonder if that had anything to do with the lower death toll than what we usually have.
It is lower.
On the weekend.
Yeah.
You know, a mutual friend of ours, and I tell you who it is. I don't know if you know him, but you know who he is. He's got Trump derangement syndrome big time. He's a Republican. And he put up a picture of the Chicago Marathon today. And it was like, see, look at all of these people fleeing Chicago. And I was like, dude, you know, he's trying to say it tongue in cheek. Like, look,
he's
saying
funny meme.
And I'm like, I comment, I was like, don't you remember the Boston Marathon bombing? I'm sure it was wall to wall security in Chicago. So of course, people are going to come out and run in the Chicago Marathon because they're going to be safe because of all the security. And I just said, you're reaching, man.
Yeah.
You're reaching.
Because of things like bomb threats, yes, they have hardened those targets, thankfully so. And, well, that's a great point because remember, once again, you know, I'm sure this person would want to yell and scream about gun control and things like that. The Boston bombing had no firearms discharged. It was all bombs. There's crazy people on the planet. And what Donald Trump is trying to do is try and tamp down on some of the crazy in urban America.
And it worked in Washington, D.C. They had 30 days of no murders. That's just incredible because Washington, D.C. is always ranked high with other murder capitals in the United States. To have D.C. not have any murders for 30 days is incredible.
Some couple of friends of my parents went to Washington, D.C. a couple of weeks ago, and they had called me before they went and asked if I could hook them up with some tours and things like that. And yep, got that all done. And then they came back and they said, oh, thank you very much. It was wonderful. I said, hey, how is Washington, D.C. these days? And they said, it's fantastic. They said we felt very safe there. There was National Guardsmen and women. And they said we talked to them and asked how they were doing. They were all very friendly. We didn't feel threatened. We didn't feel like there was fascism running amok. We loved that the guardsmen and women were on the streets of Washington, D.C.
Yeah, even though that 30 days has ended, there are still National Guard troops that are patrolling Washington, D.C., and I'm sure the crime rate has still stayed low with their presence.
Susie Moore going to join us after the Speaker Stump Speech. Speaker Stump Speech in a moment, going to be on the continuing theme of the day of giving the Donald his due on the Mideast peace plan that has been effectuated, with the first phase of having the 20 living hostages returned as they were safely this morning in Israel. Susie Moore joining us at 5:25 to further examine that momentous event today and to discuss the other item that Chris brought up, the state of Illinois and the National Guard case that's pending there. The Seventh Circuit weighing in on the Trump administration's request. We'll get all the details of that at 5:25. Since they're our next door neighbors, folks, you're going to want to definitely tune in for that segment. And at 5:45, Chris has a very interesting story about 2 Trump appointees go to a Ritz-Carlton. Interesting.
And you know what the Democrats are end up triggering with all of these judges, liberal judges that are putting these injunctions on the president, putting National Guard troops. And it's been rumored, and he said that he's thinking about, he's just going to enact the Insurrection Act.
Yep.
Which is going to give him the complete power to do that. The liberals are going to pull their hair out and be up in arms. If it goes to the Supreme Court, I'm sure that this will be a case that the president will win. But they need to just let the president do what he wants to do to solve their problems instead of taking the extreme act of enacting the insurrection.
Boy, is that a great point indeed. Donald Trump is solving problems the Democrats have created over the last many decades. It really is. And they can't, because he's solving the problems they created, that's why I think they hate him even more. The Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing.
It is.
It really is. And I don't know if any of us could ever be happier, because wars are being ended around the globe. The economy is being strengthened. A lot of damage was done the Biden years, but you saw the market. Donald Trump said the T word on Friday. The markets collapsed. And then over the weekend, he said something nice about tariffs, and the market went right back up 500-600 points today. So things, I think, underneath are starting to get a touch stronger as the GDP numbers continue to bear fruit.
And what the president understands, and the media, of course, won't report this, is when the president does threaten these tariffs on China, it puts a tremendous strain on their economy. Their economy is already kind of limping along as it is already. They do the majority of their business with the United States. So if they cut off that supply of sending goods over the United States, that hurts their economy. It hurts their businesses. There's an article on the front page of the Wall Street Journal talking about that this is one of the Chinese businessmen over there that sells toys over the United States. He says this is basically an embargo against China. When you do something like this, he's had to lay off workers. It's hurting his company. So the president knows what he's doing. I think he takes the tack that, we'll suffer a little pain here in the United States, but the Chinese are going to suffer double the pain that we are.
Donald Trump is trying to do what the Chinese do, play the long game. China has been playing the long game for thousands of years, something that we can't quite comprehend here. Donald Trump seems to recognize what a lot of liberals do not, and that's that the Communist Party of China is the number one existential threat to the United States of America. They're the number one threat to freedom and liberty and free market capitalism around the globe. They are.
And we hear it from Jim Talon every Monday when he talks about their shipbuilding capacity is dwarfing ours. We see that they, a few years ago, came up with these supersonic missiles. Our technology wasn't up to speed yet on that. We're getting there. China, as you said, they're playing for the long haul, Tim, and they are playing to be the number one superpower in this country, in this world eventually.
Indeed. Producer Joey V properly celebrating Columbus Day today with his Super Mario Brothers t-shirt on. That's a vintage shirt indeed, Joey, but it looks like you just got it right off the rack.
Oh, I'm sure. It's a gift I got last Christmas from my stepmom.
So that's Luigi, Mario, and who's the bad guy?
Who is the bad guy? Waluigi, I think.
Oh, Waluigi.
Yeah.
He's
you can tell anyone with a mustache is usually evil. Oh, no, they all have mustaches.
He's the alt. He's the alt Luigi. Yeah. Joey will be watching Good Fortune this week, and then he will be reviewing that flick on Friday at 5:45. So you want to stay tuned for that. All right, without further ado, let's give the Donald his due. That's the subject of today's Speaker Stump Speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
I searched the internets far and wide today to find a short piece that I could relate to you to describe why Donald Trump is such an excellent statesman when it comes to ending wars and solving problems that have literally plagued this planet for eons. Now, none of us are under the mistaken presumption that everything in the Middle East from now until the end of time is going to be hunky-dory. But here's what Donald Trump has done. Instead of moving forward with more wars, more fighting, more chaos, more carnage, more death, more destruction, for the time being, we've gone back to peace. And if the Arab states and Israel decide that working together can lead to further prosperity, maybe Donald Trump is onto something. Just maybe for once, the liberal left-wing corporate media could give him the benefit of the doubt. I found a piece that kind of encapsulated all that at thefederalist.com. And I think this is what we have to understand about Donald Trump from the get-go, is that he's not an ideologue. All right. I don't know that any of us are sitting here ever said that he's a William F. Buckley raging conservative. But he's also not a left-wing liberal Democrat either. Donald Trump was a transactional guy before he was anything that he is now. And the title of this piece, I think, sums it up rather well. Donald Trump is the best statesman of our time because he's a realist. Kristen Ziccarelli. How about that? Oh, I just noticed this. We have Kristen Ziccarelli and Joshua Trevino. Okay, so we got two vowels there. Maybe one of them's Italian, probably Ziccarelli. They write in The Federalist today that if we are to properly set the conditions for a civilizational rebirth, right, instead of continuing to go down this path of doomsday and destruction that the Middle East seems to want to foment on the rest of the world, we must accept that realistic rhetoric is the statescraft needed for renewal. Kristen and Joshua write, last week, President Trump announced Israel and Hamas had signed off on the first phase of a peace plan, one of the most significant diplomatic breakthroughs in the Middle East in years. See, that right there is a factual statement. Wouldn't that be nice if CNN and MSNBC reported that fact? Because it is. That's not partisan. That's not Pollyannish. It's stating what things are right now. They continue. For our nation and the world, this was a moment of rare convergence of both clarity and action. While much of the world has grown accustomed to the language of stalemate and moral equivocation, Trump's foreign policy achievements underscore a deeper principle that realism and prudence are themselves instruments of peace. His most recent address to the UN reflected the same conviction. It wasn't a speech of diplomatic pandering to anyone, but of a statesman determined to reassert that truth-telling is the first act of order. Instead of masking hard truths and euphemisms, Trump offered a direct summons that candid, realistic assessments of the world must precede our return to civilizational greatness. His address exemplified the essence of statecraft, speaking what we know is true that many people dare not say, and turning uncomfortable realities into a foundation for action. In Trump's realism, the statesman's first task is not to flatter, but to prepare, not to admire decline, like Joe Biden seemed to love to do every day, but to arrest it, to stop it. More than once in his UN speech, Trump bluntly invoked the mass migration and energy crises of the West, when he directly looked at those European diplomats and said, "You're destroying your heritage. Your countries are going to hell." Here, the president deliberately bound truth-telling to deterrence. Following that, he addressed the Mexican cartels, saying, "We will blow you out of existence." Far from just rhetoric, his words are a testament to the civic habits needed to preserve the West: fidelity to inheritance and the sacrificial courage to act on hard truths. This is about the art of rhetoric and even statecraft in a fallen world. There will always be evil and wrongs and harsh realities. Statescraft is not about crafting the perfect phrase to win applause by a bunch of diplomats, but about shaping incentives, deterring aggression, and safeguarding a people's inheritance, which is what the state of Israel is to the Jews. President Trump understands the UN stage is a great moment to state a realistic assessment of decay, basically pointing out to what the world's state of being currently is, while then saying and summoning the resolve to repair it. For conservatives, the first habit, fidelity to inheritance, deserves particular praise. Though many debate whether Trump is a, quote, real conservative, his language in his speech was a reminder that to preserve enduring things, you need to change. As Danny Kruger says, the conservative remembers that the purpose of these practices is simply to sustain the community of the people. The reason for change is to stay the same. Stewarding one's inheritance must resist the vanity of thinking we can improve everything by sheer managerial or technocratic will. Bureaucrats. Inheritance is a living trust kept alive by institutions of family, and faith and law and civil society, which are all under attack by the far left in the United States of America. I'll just point out there. That has endured because proud patriots treated them as treasures to be handed forward and especially sacrificed for. The second habit, sacrificial courage to act on hard truths. So you tell the hard truth first, but then what do? Well, you better act on it or your words are completely hollow. When leaders like Trump are willing to use very blunt language, saying things like your countries are going to hell because their decline is real, they are modeling the courage needed at every level of society to stand up against this. We saw what happened when the U.S. had a leader with the opposite approach, Joe Biden. Problems were never named. Well, Obama was guilty of that as well. And problems thus went unsolved. Remember the Obama years where he could not ever bring himself to say radical Islamic jihadism? We had that argument every day on the radio. Delicate euphemism and abstractions accelerate social erosion. The immigration issue shows that forming humane legislation must first acknowledge the evil that cartels and human traffickers pose. Unchecked, unfettered illegal immigration is a bad thing in and of itself. You can't just say, well, we should just welcome the immigrant, because the act that they're accomplishing of illegal immigration is a problem in and of itself, something the left refuses to acknowledge. Ultimately, Trump's address to the UN was a call to arms of the spirit. In naming the crises, he insisted that language match reality. His invitation, particularly to our Western allies, was for them to join in the battle for nationhood, pride in country, which is not racist, not xenophobic, not ist of anything. It embraces a posture that says our inheritance is important, it's in peril, and we're not going to bow to fashionable despair. We will live up to the sacrificial task of stewarding what's good and true. At its core, yes, it's a deeply Christian view as well, one that rejects despair and affirms instead that we're called to act even when odds are daunting, trusting in providence and the moral or of justice. Finally, if we're to properly set the conditions for a civilizational rebirth, we must accept that realistic rhetoric is the statecraft needed for renewal. Only then will the heirs of our age be able to pass forward a civilization worthy of the sacrifice of those that came before. And that's the Speaker's stump speech for today.
I think President Trump's greatest strength is he lives political theorist and philosopher Niccolo Machiavelli's most famous maxim, and that is, it is better to be feared than loved.
Yeah, and when you're dealing with tyrants across the globe, you can't do what Obama and Biden did. Never name the enemy, never say what the problem is, ignore it, and it'll go away. Because then guess what they do? The tyrants take advantage of it.
Yeah, the universal language, is strength. You may speak different languages, you may have different political philosophies, but one thing everyone understands, especially on the political stage, world political stage, is strength. And if you are perceived as weak, people and nations are going to eat you alive.
Indeed. And you can't have peace and prosperity unless first you are safe and secure. And that's just another axiom of human nature. All right, Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor, RedState.com. She's going to join us to talk about the ongoing developments in the Middle East and the developments regarding Trump, the National Guard, and the Democrat governors who are challenging him on those issues every single day. All that is straight ahead. Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A warm pattern the next couple of days. Low of 60 degrees and a high of 82 in the afternoon. Normal will be closer to 70, but we're going to be up into the low 80s. Partly cloudy skies, a warm day, and that warmth continues for Wednesday. Partly cloudy and a high of 81. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth. Your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good, casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Basement with a Y. That's Basement E.
It's Basement T.
Basement E?
It's Basement T.
Oh, Basement T. Basement T. I get it. That's the basement waterproofing and foundation repair experts at Woods Basement Systems.
Right. The All Things Basement Tea experts at Woods Basement Systems will provide you a free estimate and dry up that wet basement and fix that cracked foundation. Call 800-388-9326 or go online to woodsbasementsystems.com.
That's woodsbasementsystems.com.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
I would say that Pakistan had nominated President Donald Trump for Nobel Peace Prize. He has brought not only peace in South Asia, saved millions of people, their lives. And today, here in Sharm el-Sheikh, achieving peace in Gaza is saving millions of lives in the Middle East.
Chris, everybody wants to give Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize except the Nobel people.
I agree with that. I also think Pakistan Prime Minister is doing a little kiss up, kiss the ass, because one, the United States and Pakistan are in trade negotiations, and Pakistan and the United States have not had the greatest relations since they were housing bin Laden. And I also think you have to look at India and Pakistan, which are enemies. India has been getting closer to China and to Russia. And I think this is a way that they can try to curry a little favor with the president and get have India or Pakistan become closer to the United States.
Definitely the Game of Thrones. How about the fact that the Nobel Peace Prize winner herself this year wanted to give her award to Donald Trump? I thought that was pretty cool.
I saw that.
Of Machado, indeed. And one final note, our favorite Navy Chief Scotty pointed out on our Facebook page. You can follow us on Facebook and Rumble and Twitter and YouTube and Instagram as well. Today, Chris, is officially the 250th birthday anniversary of the U.S. Navy.
Happy birthday, U.S. Navy. Happy birthday to our good friend Scotty.
Yeah, thank you, Chief, for pointing that out. And let's get to our next guest and discuss all these headlines and more.
Oh, Susie Q, baby, I love you. Susie Q.
I'm the boss. How about that?
Well, Susie Moore, by the way, from Red State, redstate.com, at Susie Q on Twitter, joining us once again. So, Susie, a day that many of us were starting to get decreasingly despondent that might never occur over 2 years after they were first taken, ripped from their families and their homes. The last remaining living hostages were returned today. It must have been a emotional day for you, Susie, because you've covered this like no one else I know over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it really was. We had a sense that if it was going to happen, it was going to happen in the overnight hours. So I tried to kind of prepare something to write up on it so that we could get it published as soon as that was confirmed. And of course, it did happen in the overnight hours. But awaking to the news that they had indeed been transferred over was really, it was kind of stunning. I reflect back, 2 years ago, thinking of all the people that were taken and thinking, they're never coming out of there alive, that's not going to happen. And then, in different batches, we did get some of them home. It's bittersweet, of course, because there are some who obviously did not, and they're still trying to recover the bodies of some who did. But, I spent a good chunk of the morning just kind of scrolling through Twitter and watching the clips of the reunions and sobbing. Because it's a very emotional thing. You can't even fathom what it must have been like for these poor people who have basically spent, 2 years in the dark, not knowing what was happening, outside of where they were and what had happened with their families.
Susie, I am ecstatic, as everyone in the world is, most people in the world, that these hostages were released. Unfortunately, whenever we have these hostage swap deals between the Palestinian terrorist groups and Israel, they're very disproportionate. I was reading that Israel released 250 Palestinian prisoners serving life sentences. All but 24 still remain. And then 1,700 Palestinians who were detained by Israel after October 7th are being released as well. I know these folks want to have their people home, and I get that. I just hate that the Palestinians get all of these murderers and terrorists back.
Yeah, I don't know what each of those people were being held for. Some of them probably for more serious crimes than others. But yeah, it is always a sort of a disproportionate thing. And it kind of goes to the fact that Israelis value the lives of their people very, very highly, and are willing to make such trades to get them home, even those who are deceased. They want that closure. They want those people reunited with their families, and they are willing to give, more than a one-to-one trade, if you will. And some people don't understand that. I do. I think when you place a high value on life, you're in some instances willing to do just about anything to get back your people.
Mm-hmm.
Susie, this is even though we're all concerned, and the most concern, of course, coming from MSNBC and CNN, who can't believe their eyes that this is actually occurring at all, and they want to throw cold water on the whole thing. So, of course, we're all concerned about the tenuous nature of all this. But Susie, aren't we living in a different world now? Aren't we living in a world that the Middle East is more westernized than it's been in decades? And as Donald Trump has challenged them, hey, y'all would be better off if you engaged in more commerce and less warfare. And some of the Arab states seem to be embracing that with some of the trade deals that he's brought them. So there's an opportunity here to do something different, isn't there?
I think there is, and I think it's because Trump, with his, the way he looks at the world and everything as a potential deal, that allowed him to sort of think outside the box and to get buy-in from a number of countries, including Muslim countries and Arab countries, and basically triangulating on this so that it wasn't just basically two parties, each with their own sets of needs and wants and neither willing to budge. It kind of just opened up the possibility of these negotiations, and it brings pressure from other quarters. It isn't just the U.S., putting that pressure on the parties involved. I don't know, obviously, that it will hold. I don't know that it will be successful, but I do know that I don't know of any time in my lifetime that I've seen this type of agreement signed. I know that there have been, efforts along the way. I remember there being, a momentous deal signed back in the, was it late 70s?
77.
Between, was it Egypt and Israel?
Yes.
Am I remembering that
Yes.
right?
Yeah, Camp David, of course.
There was a big deal at the time. I was a little kid, so that's why I'm not remembering it as clearly as I should. But I remember that being a very, very big deal. And here we have multiple countries signing off on this. And I won't say I'm overly optimistic. I would say I'm very cautiously optimistic, and we'll just have to see. But right now, there's a ceasefire. And right now, there's 20 hostages who are at home with their loved ones.
And it's
so that's better than we've seen in a long time.
And it's ironic too that Iran, which was sponsoring these proxy groups that were attacking Israel, it kind of united the Arab states in favor of Israel. And I think if they would have never expected anything like that, they just completely miscalculated, I think. I mean, what were they thinking committing this atrocity on October 7th? What did they think that they were going to gain from this? That's what I've been trying to really understand. They should have known that Israel was going to completely obliterate them for this. It just doesn't make any sense when you just think about it.
Well, except for I think that we are still, we look at these things through, understandably, a Western viewpoint and with a very different worldview and understanding and motivations than some people in that area of the world do. And, I just as I can't pretend to understand why, someone would murder somebody else, here in a crime of opportunity or passion or whatever, I can't pretend to understand why anyone would think that what they did was, a good thing in any way. I don't know if they miscalculated or if they just knew it would create this upheaval and they were banking on that somehow working to their advantage. I don't know.
Speaking to Susie Moore at Smoozy Q on Twitter X, redstate.com. Susie, meanwhile, the lawfare against the Trump administration, which is really the only tool the left has these days against the trifecta of Republican rule in Washington, D.C., although they're using it at will all across the country, has rolled on. Susie, tell us about the article you wrote. Tell us about what's going on in the Seventh Circuit and what they did with the Trump administration's request regarding the Illinois National Guard.
So, just as it in Oregon, Trump, the administration called up, federalized the National Guard, and then sought to deploy them. And of course, everyone ran right to court. Or the opposition ran to court seeking a temporary restraining order of that. And like the judge in Oregon did, the judge in Illinois issued a restraining order. And the Seventh Circuit, like the Ninth Circuit, put just an administrative stay on that. And that's just a temporary pause. As you know, it's not anything substantive. It's just saying, hold up on that. As to the ability of the president to federalize the National Guard, we're going to pause that order. Now, they didn't agree that he could go ahead and deploy them. So everything is still very preliminary right now. It's a kind of in a weird holding pattern, but we're seeing these issues being litigated slowly but surely through the appellate courts, and I think we're probably going to see a favorable ruling out of the Ninth Circuit before too long. The Seventh Circuit hasn't even set oral argument on this yet. They may do that this week, but I think we're going to see the Ninth Circuit leading the way. And given the way that they treated the California situation, I think they're probably going to give a more favorable ruling to the administration, but we don't know until it comes down. In the meantime, everyone's basically watching this ping pong match go back and forth over everything.
Susie, the president, reports are coming out that the president is threatening to enact, or I don't know what you'd say, the Resurrection Act, where they give him broad powers to be able to issue troops to these different locations. Your thoughts on that? And will judges be able to issue injunctions if he does the Insurrection Act, or does he have total power to do that for a certain amount of time? I'm sure.
Yeah, and it is the Insurrection Act, not the Resurrection Act.
Did I say Resurrection? I'm sorry.
You did.
The Resurrection Act.
So there's basically, like they say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way for the president to invoke these powers. He's done it under a different statute thus far. He has not invoked the Insurrection Act. He's mentioning that as a possibility, but as Trump often does, he's kind of throwing that out there as a trial balloon. But it is another way in which the president, can theoretically exercise that power. In both that and the current statute that he's using, the executive is supposed to be given a great deal of deference, and the lower courts seem to be confused. They think that because there's some ability to have judicial review, that it's their job to second guess his assessments. It's not.
Correct.
They're fumbling with where to draw the line, and I think that they're in for a rude awakening when all is said and done. Whether it's ultimately the Supreme Court that lays down the law here, or some of these appellate courts. But they're kind of gliding right past where their authority is and just assuming that they can kind of sit on his shoulder and say, no, you don't. No, you don't. That's not right. I don't agree. And that's just not ultimately what I think is going to be borne out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Susie, to your point, just because you have the power doesn't mean you're supposed to exercise the power every single time the Trump administration does something that maybe leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Well, yeah, and you know, there's this whole issue about where that power, where the president's power ends and the judiciary's power begins, and they've kind of jumped over that. He's supposed to be given a great deal of deference on this, and there's this mentality that because it's Donald Trump, they know better. Well, they don't. They weren't elected by the American people. They don't get to make that call.
Mm-hmm.
Susie, the redistricting wars, of course, are continuing. There is liberal groups here in Missouri that are trying to create a ballot initiative to try to stop the redistricting here in Missouri. Front page article on Red State says that North Carolina has made an announcement on redistricting. What is that?
Yeah, I think they're just going to kind of join the fun, like Missouri has, like Indiana has talked about. I don't know if Indiana has actually implemented it or not, but North Carolina, I think, didn't want to be left out, so they're going to see what they can do to redistrict as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Susie, any other big highlights you'd like to bring to our listeners' attention that's featured up at redstate.com? Maybe something we didn't get to that we should have this afternoon.
Well, you know, one thing I do want to mention, Chris alluded to this with the clip that we came in with regarding the Pakistani prime minister's comments today. Yes, I do think there's a certain degree of kissing up there. I think we see that a lot. I think a lot of world leaders have figured out that if you want to have things go well with President Trump, it pays to flatter him. And so that I think that is part of what we're seeing here, particularly since Pakistan right now is about to get into it with Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this, it's undeniable that President Trump helped forestall conflict between Pakistan and India. And one of the things that the prime minister said today was, I think you are the man this world needed most at this point in time.
Mm.
And yes, that's flattering, but I think there's a valid point there. I don't know that anybody else could have worked this the way that Donald Trump did. And so I think he deserves the credit. And I think we can be glad to see other world leaders giving him that credit.
Mm. Indeed. Susie Moore, she's with redstate.com, redstate.com. You can follow her at SmoozyQ on Twitter X. And she's the host of Red State Radio, heard here at News Talk STL every Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. Susie, thanks for everything you do for us and for all of us here at News Talk STL.
Thank you, Susie.
You bet, guys. Have a great evening.
We shall indeed. All right. Just like that, it is 5:43, almost 5:44 in the PM. Thanks to everybody who came out. We had a bunch of fans stop by and visit us at Harpo's Chesterfield. Chris, it was great talking to the owner of Harpo's. Never knew he was such a rock-ribbed fan of News Talk STL.
Exactly, and he is on the right side of the political spectrum, and unfortunately, Mizzou came up a little short Saturday, but it was a great game.
It was indeed. When we come back, Chris has got an interesting story, one of many, regarding 2 Trump appointees at a Ritz-Carlton, and we'll prepare you for Larry Connors USA. Larry follows us every evening, Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 p.m., right after the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, which rolls on here at 101.9 94.1. This is News Talk STL.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A warm pattern the next couple of days. Low of 60 degrees and a high of 82 in the afternoon. Normal will be closer to 70, but we're going to be up into the low 80s. Partly cloudy skies, a warm day, and that warmth continues for Wednesday. Partly cloudy and a high of 81. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Shh, don't bother us. Ken and I are scouring X right now so that we can tell you what we heard on the X. I heard it on the X. That's our feature, 9:25 on Tuesday.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Kathy Connor from Connor Roofing is here. Kathy, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Vic.
You know, when you need a roof, I don't want to call a stranger. I want to call you.
Yeah, thanks. At Connor Roofing, we're more than just a roofing company.
How long have you been doing it?
Since 1993.
And year after year, storm after storm, you guys are always there.
Because this is our home too, Vic. Our kids go to school with your kids. We cheer for the same teams. Go Blues!
So support your neighbors. Call Connor Roofing at 314-375-7475 or CONNER roofing.com.
Thanks, Vic.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine-in or carry-out, your meal is prepared to perfection. Make the drive to 300 Main Street and treat yourself to a taste of Moscow Mills' finest. Harry J's, more than a steakhouse. We're a tradition.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, driving the leftist crazy all afternoon.
Authoritarianism. It's a cancer. The symptoms are here today. Masked agents grabbing people off the streets, the government threatening and prosecuting political opponents, attacks on free speech, soldiers in our cities. We thought it couldn't happen here. Other places? Sure. Italy in the 20s, where fascism was born. Chile, Russia, Venezuela, Hungary. And now the disease is growing, the cancer metastasizing in America now. But there's a cure. It requires you. On October 18, at the nationwide No Kings protests, Americans will stand up peacefully for what makes America, America. Scan the QR code to find your local No Kings event. Show them you're not afraid. Do it for the country, for the Constitution, for your family, for yourself. Do it for your freedom while you still can.
548 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Tim, I think that's a little bit of Trump derangement syndrome coupled with trying to be relevant. Your thoughts?
The left is trying to argue that because the United States of America is enforcing its own laws, that it's somehow run by fascists.
Yeah.
See, if you don't agree with the left, then you're a fascist or a Nazi, even if what your disagreement has to do with the fact that they're arguing that violating sovereignty should be the way of the world now, right? They're advocating for Marxism, communism, and socialism. They don't want these free market principles. So Chris, they're fine with everyone as long as we do exactly what they want us to do. Just like so wait a minute. The COVID years weren't filled with fascism and authoritarianism. Are you kidding me? And that was all perpetrated by the left.
Exactly. And fascism, what we're seeing is complete anarchy in the streets. It's not being showed in Portland, but it's every single night you're having protesters that are taking on these ICE agents and attacking federal buildings. The president has every right to send in federal troops, to send in FBI agents, whoever, to protect federal buildings. Why they have a problem with that, I have no idea.
The left keeps saying that we can't protest and our voices can't be heard. Then what are we watching every single night on the news? Nobody is preventing peaceful protests or demonstrations or speeches. They're happening every single day. And the fact that we're not in a third world dictatorship proves the point, because these people get to do all these things. But what they're advocating for literally are violations of U.S. law. Donald Trump is sending in law enforcement to enforce the laws that are on the books. And if they don't like the laws on the books, then they should try and convince the American people that they should have a majority in the House and the Senate to change our immigration laws.
And these people don't even have a strong argument for their anarchy. You're protecting people, or you want to protect people who are in this country illegally, who crossed over the border, didn't do the things that were necessary to become citizens of this country. A lot of these people are committing crimes. They're committing murders. They're killing people in drunk driving incidents. They're taking jobs away from Americans. They're taking jobs away from lower income African Americans at entry level jobs. Some of the construction jobs, drywall jobs, roofing jobs, all those are jobs that Americans used to do, but they don't do it now because there are a lot of illegal aliens that are doing those jobs. And I'm sick of the argument when people say that these are jobs that Americans won't do anymore. That's no excuse for allowing illegality.
Yeah, well, when you force something on somebody long enough, eventually they'll adopt that behavior. And so I think that's why we are where we are now on that issue. But the left is literally advocating for open borders, right? Which in and of itself will be the end of a nation, any nation. If you have open borders where there is no system of allowing anyone to enter or exit the country, that will destroy the nation. Allowing non-citizens the right to vote.
Yeah.
You're going to allow people who have no stake in this country, no skin in the game, no real responsibility to pay taxes or to care about law and order in the streets. You're going to let them vote in your elections. That will destroy a country. The left wants to print money with no basis in reality or fact. That will destroy a country. So the fact, Chris, that we're pushing back on these things and saying we don't disagree with them, that's then why they call us fascists.
Exactly.
Because we're not doing what they want us to do as they completely destroy the United States of America.
And they call us uncompassionate because of that's what it's saying. All right, let's get to this Ritz-Carlton story here. This is from Politico. A female Trump DHS appointee showed up at the Ritz-Carlton Orlando for a work trip, only to learn that she didn't have a hotel room, Tim. She was then informed by Paul Ingrassia, a higher-ranking Trump appointee in the department and the president's nominee to head the Office of Special Counsel, that she would be staying in his room, according to 5 administration officials with knowledge of the matter. Eventually, the woman discovered that Ingrassia had arranged ahead of time to have her room canceled, so she would have to stay with him. She would later file a formal harassment complaint before withdrawing it, fearing retaliation. A DHS investigation ensued. The events came as the nomination of Ingrassia, he's only 30 years old, is on the rocks after the Republican senators raised concerns about his background and amount of experience, as well as possible anti-Semitism. Now, in a statement, the woman said she never felt uncomfortable by Ingrassia's conduct and there was no wrongdoing. Ingrassia's attorney wrote in a letter to Politico. But still, why do you cancel the hotel room of your female colleague and say you're staying with me?
Bizarre.
That's something that, I mean, and really when I saw the article originally, I didn't see his age. That's something a 30-year-old person would do that's not really thinking.
It's a little aggressive.
Yeah, that's more than aggressive. Like, yeah, your room's canceled. You're staying with me.
Weird.
Yeah, that didn't make a lot of sense. All right. Retailers and drone delivery companies say the federal government is overreaching with a proposed law on drone operations that will require TSA-like security screening for their stores, employees, and potentially even their own customers. The proposed rule, which assigns 55-pound delivery drones the same risk profile as huge cargo planes, that would cripple the drone delivery business just as if it's about to take off. You know, I've seen videos of these drones that are dropping off packages in front of people's houses. I've even seen it was a Domino's delivery like little vehicle that just showed up at somebody's house, dropped off the pizza, and then it took off. I don't know how I feel about drones. First of all, what to stop somebody from just shooting the thing and bringing it down and stealing your package? You know, we have package porch thieves and everything, and I don't know. I don't want to see the airwaves, and I know this is the future anyway, but I just don't want to see the airspace just crawling with delivery drones.
Well, you're going to have to do something to dedicate airspace. Otherwise, they're all going to be crashing in. I mean, that's why we have air traffic controllers.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to do some kind of dedicated thing where they have to fly at a certain level, a certain time of day. So that's what they do, Chris, with commercial aircraft.
Yeah.
So commercial aircraft fly east to west at I think the odd numbers.
Okay.
And they fly. I may have this backwards. And then they fly west to east on the even numbers, like 32,000, 34, 36, 38.
I will check that out next time I fly.
Yeah, depending on which direction you're going. Bob Onder could answer this right now. He would know it off the top of his head because he's a licensed pilot. But I've learned enough over the years flying in these small planes that you fly at certain levels, so you're all going at least in the same direction.
Yeah,
at a certain level.
What atmosphere? What level do planes like Bob fly? What level do they fly at?
Anywhere from like
I always wondered
3,000 to about 10,000 feet.
Really, I always thought it was higher.
Once you get over 10 to 12,000 feet, you need oxygen.
Okay.
You need oxygen.
Okay.
Yeah. Now Bob can fly with oxygen, and then he can fly higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reason they do that, the air's thinner.
Yeah.
And you think about the curvature of the Earth. You're going shorter distances, the shorter the curvature is, and the air's thinner. So there's less drag on the airplane.
I always thought, I never knew exactly how high they did fly. For some reason, I thought they flew a little higher than that. But yeah,
10,
you're right.
10 to 12.
Oxygen, of course, would be less.
Uh-huh.
All right, and finally, worldwide solar and wind power. For those of our greenies that are listening, they'll be happy about this. Worldwide solar and wind power have grown faster than electricity demand growth this year, according to the AP. For the first time on record, Tim, renewable energies combined generated more power than coal. Mainly, could that be because we've gotten rid of all of our coal plants?
Maybe.
Could that be a reason? Global solar and wind generation combined grew more than 400 terawatts hours in the first half of 2025, more than overall global demand increase in the same period. Still, I don't want a global car. I don't want a wind car or anything like that. Give me coal. Give me green. Give me coal, or give me what do you call it? Fossil fuels. All right, Larry Connor's up next. Even with the multinational peace deal, Israel is still at risk, and Pritzker repeating lies about Trump. You have been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
Winter's coming fast. Is your furnace ready? Johnson Heating and Cooling is here to help. Get our complete furnace checkup for just $99. We'll check for gas leaks, inspect electrical connections, and examine your flue to keep your family safe and warm. We service all brands of equipment.